Hello, everyone. Don, good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too.
Everyone's so punctual.
Oh,
I was even a little older. I think I barely got in under the wire. Hey, Jeff, great to see you, man.
Hey,
How are
man,
you?
Good to see you too. Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Good. I think most of the things here. Let's give it a moment.
Your audio keeps dropping out there, Francois.
Yeah, I think we should time for. Thank you.
How's that?
There you go.
Yeah. Thanks for the heads up, Jeff. All right. Well, let's see who's here. Oh, I think it's the usual suspects. We may as well get started. All right. So I think this is my first meeting that presenting on 2022. So let me get that file open and share my screen. All right. I think everybody should be able to see that. So one of the interesting new features in 2022 is wall closure, which is a kind of a funny name to me, but it's a very cool feature. So, and let me just kind of describe what that means visually, or show it to you. So you can see in this door that I've got inserted in the wall that the opening here is chamfered on 3 sides, left, right, top. And if I spin around over to the back here, and we get a real close look, you can see that these corners are radiused. Sorry. That's some pretty intense zooming around here. So you can see that these corners are radiused. Yep. So that's the kind of thing you can do with the new wall closure feature. And I know in a previous meeting we had discussed ways to show sills and so forth, and these kinds of conditions. Gail, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you had a particular interest in this, but this is the kind of thing that we all, want to be able to do from time to time. And notice, if you recall that meeting from months ago, that the way that we would have had to achieve this is to basically include that chamfer as part of the door, either as a lintel object or create a hybrid or a symbol that included a plugin object and some additional geometry and so forth. And then getting the textures to wrap properly, well, good luck with that. So wall closure solves a lot of those things, and that's really great. However, there are a few kind of tricks to getting it to work. So first, let me do a quick rundown. And by the way, hey, Matt, has Service Pack 1 been released in the wild?
No official service pack date yet, but it's coming.
Okay.
It has been released because I just updated a couple of days ago.
Okay, great. I thought maybe it had, and so that's good because that'll give us a little bit more to talk about, because in Service Pack 1 there's a sort of an expansion of this feature that's pretty cool. So that's good. I can talk about it. Since I'm on the beta program, sometimes I get these service packs and I don't really know like if they're out there. Okay, good. So let's see. So let's look at this door here, and you'll notice that over here in the Object Info palette, there's the flip button that we've all known. There's set that we've all known, and now there's a new button called Wall Closure. And so if I click on that, get this dialog box. I get this this dialog box here that you can see, and it's got two mains, A-N-E, not A-I-N, profile and wrapping. So let's talk about profile first. The first thing you notice is that there's a wall settings button here. So you can use wall settings, and I'll get to that in a minute. Actually, it'll probably be more like 10 minutes, but bear with me. So you can use wall settings here, or you can have the wall closure settings for this particular singular instance of the door in the wall. So, in other words, there can be a general rule about how wall closure occurs when windows and doors are inserted into the wall, and that rule can live with the wall itself. So you don't have to think about it. Every time you insert a door or a window into the wall, all of those doors and windows will close the same way, right? Or you can do this on an ad hoc basis. In other words, you can go ahead and override the wall settings with the individual door or window. And that's what I've done here. And you can see if I displace this, right, we've already seen that there's a splay here on the exterior. So I can go ahead and change the width. I'm going to go ahead and change the left width to make it straight, right? So there's no splay. I'll hit OK. And you can see that the splay has gone away. Let's go back to the wall closure. And the reason for that, the reason it's gone away all the way around, is that I had set the, let's go ahead and do a splay here. For the left, you see that over here I had the right and the top to use the left. So let's go ahead and leave the left as straight. In other words, nothing than an ordinary closure, right? And then for the top, let's also let that use the left. So now I've got a pull-down menu, and the top can be defined by the left. And for the right, now instead of using the left settings, I'm going to go over here to none. In other words, allowing me to set a custom setting, and you're getting a little preview here over to the right, obviously. Let's do a splay on, let's go crazy. Let's do a 12-inch splay, and let's give it a depth of, say, 4 inches is good because that's what the stone is. Anyway, okay. So let's hit OK and see what that looks like in 3D. And I'll pivot this window around. There we go. Or, I'm sorry, door. And you can see, there we go, it's splaying just the way I expected. On the left-hand side, it's just a right angle. On the top and the bottom, because they're just taking their cue from the left, Those are all identical. But over here, I'm displaying this undoubtedly so that you can get an even better view of this beautiful marionette generated downspout. That's a plug for a plugin, right? And then over here on the inside, right? I'm not, just because the left side is unique on the outside, or the right side is unique on the outside, you'll see that inside, all of those settings are the same. So I'll go back to wall closure, and because over here on the interior, I've got this 2-inch radius. By the way, not something I would normally do, but you know, it's kind of it's an easy way to show how this would behave, right? So for the left, it's just going to be round. For the right, it's going to be round. For the top, it's just going to use the left, right? And for the bottom, it also uses, it's just straight. So notice that when I go to bottom here, or top, the preview changes to show me sort of a diagram of a vertical section. When I show left and right, I get a preview of the horizontal section. So that's kind of wall closure in a nutshell. But there's several nuances I want to continue on here. So now let's talk about this wrapping feature. So when I click on the wrapping dialog box, right, you'll see that I see all the components of this particular wall. These are the components of the wall that this door plugin object is inserted in. And notice that the core is identified. And I can tell the masonry here to wrap. And I can tell the inner finish to wrap. And I can tell it to wrap to the insertion. So I'll go ahead and click on that if I can. No, I don't think I can. I wonder why that is. Oh, because it says, ha ha ha. This is all grayed out because look, I've got use wall settings, right? So I'll deselect that. And so now this is not grayed out. So now I will wrap this to the insertion, right? And so the inner finish wraps to the insertion. So you can see here that might be hard for you to see on your screen, but that drywall is actually returning all the way to the little gray rectangle, which represents the plugin object in question in plan. And look, my core thickness is 4 inches. And if you look at the profile of the right side, yep, I've got a 4-inch depth. So that's probably why it's not playing nice. So let's just make it, I don't know, 3 3¾ inches and see what that looks like. Yeah, there you go. So now that I've created not a splay that goes down to 0, but I've left it a little bit of meat here to return. I could even do like, I don't know, 3 7/8. Now, 1/8 of an inch is about the tolerance. So we'll just say 3 3/4. Okay. So now you can see that it's returning all the way to the window, which is how you would probably draw this in plan. And then it follows that same return condition over here on the right. And if I don't like it to return all the way to the insertion point, yeah, so here for the, let's go to the left, because that's the rule on the left. Instead of wrapping to the insertion, right, I could have the sheathing wrap to the insertion. Of course, those aren't wrapping at all, but I could make them wrap. And I can specify where it wraps to. So, so let's go ahead and deselect these. Is what I really want to do. So instead of wrapping to the wood stud, right, I could have it wrap as far as the sheathing. And that's as far as it would go. And not have it wrap to the insertion. right, so I'll have it, I wrap it to the insertion, that's where it goes. Have it wrapped to the sheathing. I guess it's not gonna like that. It's gonna want me to go at least as far as the, yeah, looks like it wants me to wrap all the way to the insertion here. So if I look at this in top plan, right, it's giving me a little bit of wrap there. And this isn't returning at all, so let's play with that. So wrap to insertion here. There we go. Nope. I wonder why it's doing that. All right, I have to give that a think. While I'm pondering this, I do want to point out that there's also another change in the object info palette that you can specify where you want your object to insert. So heretofore, if I was inserting a door into a masonry veneer wall, I would also always have to calculate for myself how far do I have to offset that wall insertion so that the door would land in the frame component of the wall. And usually with a typical 2x4 wall with a nominal 4-inch masonry with a 5.5-inch brick lug, that would work out to a wall offset of negative 1.75 inches and negative 2.75 inches for a 2x6 wall. Well, I don't have to fuss with that anymore. I can just go ahead and tell this door to insert right here to the core component center line. So the door is just going to find the center line of the core component, which if I edit this wall style, you'll see that I've checked core component for wood stud framing here. So the wall knows that this is the core component. And that setting has been around for quite a while because when you auto join walls, cores join with cores, there's lots of good reasons to identify if it's appropriate, which it usually is for most walls, which of the components is the core component. And then while I'm on the subject of the wall, let me go back and edit this wall style. You'll see that now there's a new button in the Edit Wall Style dialog box, Wall Closure at Inserts. And you get the same sort of dialog box for the individual object. You get a profile pane and a wrapping pane, and you can specify either generally all of your objects will wrap the same way, or all your conditions will wrap the same way, or you can customize left, right, top, bottom, and so on and so forth. So another instance of this, for example, here I've got on the upper floor, I just have stucco. And for this window, I've created a wide splay at the left and the right, and less of a splay at the top. But then for this window, I've created the same splay all the way around, and rather improbably have left myself with a bit of a water catching condition here that I'm sure my waterproofer is going to yell at me about, or if they don't, I'll be getting a call from the client in a couple of years. So that's probably not a good idea. All right, well, this might be a good time for me to pause and start answering some questions before I go further, because I've just thrown a lot at you in a short amount of time. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask me a question that I probably can't answer adequately.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about sills with this? Will the sills follow the splay?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's pivot over to a window that is going to need a sill. Give me just a second on that to catch any other questions. Yes, I know. You want to be in the meeting. By the way. All right. Any other questions other than sills? Because I'm about to get to that.
Yes. When you set the closure for the wall, is that just for the one wall where you're inserting, or is that for every wall?
It's for the wall style. So you're going to want to use styled walls.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know that there's a way to set the closure for an instance of a wall without making it unstyled. It's either the object or the. Yep. All right, well, let's go ahead and throw a sill on this window over here. Yep. It looks like a good candidate for a sill. So let's go over here to the to that window. Go to settings. We go to sill, include a sill. Let's do a masonry sill. Let's give it a nice fat lip and maybe a tiny little keep and give it a nice overall height and maybe a depth of let's go with 5 inches. God, we really are stubborn. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. I'm seeing it. I think it's just it's just not big enough. So let's keep going on that. There we go. And then that just an aluminum clad or a vinyl sill. That's very, very disturbing to me. So it has nothing to do with this feature, but I just got to fix this. I'll convert this to unstyled. Actually, let's just edit the style, shall we? And let's just make the sill we'll put it in the sills class. Okay. So that was a completely unnecessary detour, but okay. Whew. Great. Something like this, right, Gail? Oh, and let's do this. Let's make the sill keep, or the extension rather, which is parameter 6 here. Let's make that something really crazy. Let's go out there. All right, cool. So we're ready. So now we're going to go to wall closure. We'll click on that. We're not going to use the wall settings. We'll go ahead and do a splay. Let's do 6 inches and 3 inches. Left, right, top. We'll do no, oh, and bottom. We'll have none. Great, perfect. So we're splaying left and right. Well, it's not working. And this threw me for a loop at first. But thanks to some help, I got it figured out. So the reason it's not working is that in order for wall closure to work on, and this has nothing to do with sills, this just has to do with wall closure in general. It isn't enough to just click on the wall closure button here and have it ignore the wall settings and use its own settings. For wall closure to work at all, you're going to need to right-click on the object if it's just a regular plugin object. And when you right-click on the object, you see that there, way down here is a plugin object options. And that's been there all along, right? And that gives you things like the class that this is assigned to, and certain other options, which are grayed out by default because
I think we lost Francois. Is that just me?
Yeah, he's frozen on my screen also.
Yeah,
Okay.
it looks frozen.
Frozen. And it was just getting so interesting.
While we're waiting for him to return, can somebody tell me where the plugin object options are?
It's a right click on the object and then go down to plugin options.
Okay. So also, if you don't mind my asking, I have a style for a door and it keeps coming out gray, and I have all my settings to be based on door style, and gray is not my door style, but in the style, there's not anywhere I can find where you can actually assign a class to the object. Anybody know anything about that? And again, I'm taking complete advantage of the fact that Francois is marooned somewhere in cyberspace. Did anybody understand what my question is?
It might be easier.
Hey, I'm back.
Show
Okay,
your
never mind.
screen.
Okay, let's get back to Francois' topic.
Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
I missed you guys. All right, I was about to say that it's really critical that you right-click on your plugin object, that you go to the plugin object options, and that you choose use wall closure. You select that. Otherwise, you can have wall closure settings all day long. They just won't work. Now, if it's a styled object, which is what I think what I was about to say when you guys lost me, is that right? Have we gotten that far? If it's a styled object, then you can go ahead and make that part of the style. So let's go and edit the style. And now I have to remember where it is. Oh, no, it's not in the object style. You got to go to the resource manager. And this is a Marvin Essential, so it's right here. There's the plugin style in my resource manager. Can you guys see that the resource manager window?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, sometimes with Zoom, it's like you can only see the main window. So, over here, I right click on that and plugin object style options. And then you get this same dialog box and you want to go ahead and click use wall closure either as an option or just make it, you can definitely use wall closure. Okay, so very important, really, really critical. You will You will never get closure. Oh man, I've been waiting for days for this one. You will never get closure if you don't check this little box. All right. So back to you, Gail. You can see that the object is behaving, at least as I would expect it, with respect to the sill with that closure. Does that look like the way you would
Yeah.
design that?
Yes, that looks good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Right. And so here I don't have I've only done the 2-inch radius at the right and left. I haven't set it for the top and bottom, but obviously I could, and I could add a stool and I could add trim, and all of that still works. Other questions so far?
Just out of curiosity, what happens if you have a negative number on your splay?
I don't know. I mean, we can play with that, sure. Like negative width or negative depth. Yeah, it just,
Okay. Ignores it. Okay.
yeah, it won't even let you.
Somebody was thinking.
Yeah. There's a lot of nooks and crannies to this feature. It's this is not surprising, right? Like users will ask, users like me and you will ask for a feature, and then these guys have to implement it and they have to think about. I mean, this is probably something that people have wanted for a long time, and it seems like how hard could it be? But once you sort of dig into it, there's a lot of different moving pieces to this that have to happen. Okay, so then the other thing that I wanted to, since Don had confirmed that Service Pack 1 was out, this is not a plugin object. This is a symbol, this funny little window that I made that is composed, of course, of two plugin objects. And I can right click on it, and you could see that because it's a symbol, I don't have the plugin object components, right? I do have a whole component though. I created a whole component. It's this extrusion here. If I delete that, then this is the kind of hole that it makes. So whenever you make an odd shaped symbol that gets inserted in a wall, you need to add a whole component. In the old days, we would just like kind of create some 3D loci, kind of a breadcrumbs of 3D loci to define the hole. And if you needed an arch or something, it was very segmented and not entirely satisfactory. So for many, many versions now, there's been this whole component aspect. And so it's just the edit wall hole component. And it's, the way I made it is I just edited the symbol, edited the wall hole component, showed other objects while in edit modes, and then just went to a front view of that window or a back view, and helps to turn on the clip cube because then it kind of clears out some distracting geometry. I just traced this polygon and extruded it. So it's just an extrusion, right? So this is all kind of review. But if I want there to be wall closure here, let's play with this. All right, so let's find that symbol. Here's the flag window. Let's right click on it. And you can see I've got edit 2D components, edit 3D components, edit 3D wall hole component. That's where we just were. Edit wall closure component. And there is no component here. So the easiest way to do this is to, since I've already built a wall hole component, I'll just copy that. And now I'll edit the wall closure component and paste in place. And now that I have a component, I have this wall closure at inserts. And now I can apply wall closures. Close this and kind of slide that down a little bit so you can see what's going on. Okay. And I could go ahead and give it an exterior profile of a display. Okay, and I've kind of picked a tough one, so we'll see how that goes.
Francois, why in plan view does it show stucco, but you're working with a?
Yeah, I was
Stone
wondering
wall.
the same thing.
The other question
Oh,
that
because I'm looking at the wrong, I've got the wrong thing clicked.
oh, okay.
Here we go.
The other question I have is when you're beta testing for Vectorworks, do they ever ask you if the name that they're proposing is what they should use? Because it seems like it's a return, you know, a head, sill, and jam return, not a.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Um, bu- 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 um, okay, edit symbol options. Go. There we go. So I want to edit symbol options, use wall closure, and then I can apply closure profiles. Offsets. So I'll use wall closure, and then that's good. And then once I do that, then the wall closure button appears. I can specify not wall settings, but individual settings. I'll do, 6 inches and 3 inches, corner radius, and then, so that's left, right uses left, top uses none, and we'll make that, well, let's also do a splay, but it'll just be different. Let's do like a 3 and 3. And then bottom, let's also make that a splay. And let's see if we can break this, because that's what I like to do. And we'll give that a width of, say, 12 inches and a depth of 3. All right. Super sculptural. That's pretty impressive. I mean, works nicely, I think.
Francois,
Yeah.
could you just walk through really quickly the steps you took, just very quickly? And this is Al speaking. And as you
No,
know,
I can see.
I always get hung up on where are the buttons.
Yeah. You'll want to take notes on all this stuff. And this is being recorded, and it'll be on the YouTube TM channel.
Fair enough. Okay, it's on me to just.
But
Okay.
yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. So step number 1, make a symbol. Okay. In this case, I made a symbol with, we can just go ahead and right click on this object and edit 3D component. And this is just a symbol of a sliding window, horizontal slider, and then a casement. I don't think it's very beautiful, but that's not the point. So number one, make a symbol. You could have made this symbol out of extrusions. It doesn't have to be made with windows and doors. It could be made out of anything, right? So if you had some sort of a niche or an alcove that you needed in a stone wall or whatever, you could do this. So number one, make a symbol. Number two, make sure now that you've made a symbol that you have a wall hole component if that's anything other than sort of a rectangular profile in elevation. So this sort of flag shape, this sort of L on its side here. So I made a wall component, and I just traced the profile of the window and extruded it. And I just gave it a nice chunky 2-foot extrusion. It doesn't really matter. It just needs to be enough that it's deeper, that it's further along. It's deeper than any wall you anticipate inserting this into. So step number 3 is take that extrusion that you just created to make the wall hole, okay, copy it and paste it in place at the exact same location in the wall closure component of the symbol. And again, if you right click is your friend here. If you right click on that object in the wall or in the resource manager, edit 2D component, edit 3D component, edit 3D component, that's where I put the 2 windows, edit wall hole component, that's where I created that flag shaped extrusion, edit wall hole closure component, that's where I pasted that extrusion to create a wall hole component. So that's the next thing that I did. Then in the resource manager, you're going to want to look at the instance of that object and edit symbol options and make sure that you allow it to use wall closure. Because if you've done all that and you haven't checked this box, you won't get closure. I'm going to beat that terrible, terrible joke to death today. So if you want to be able to use wall closure or returns, as Don has said, if you want to use these kind of sculptural returns, you're going to want to be able to check this box, use wall closure. And I'll leave you to explore how these offsets work. There are just some settings here, and we don't have to go through that. You can click on that and set up some rules for yourself so that it appears correctly to your experienced eye. And you can exclude wall closure. Like if you know you've got a difficult shape and you're like, a Palladian window and you don't ever want to see a splay on that arch, you could exclude the wall closure from the top, say. So there we go. So go ahead and cancel that. So use wall closure again by clicking in the resource manager, right clicking on the object, and edit symbol options, use wall closure. Or if it's not a symbol, if it's just a plugin window, right click on it, edit plugin style options, make sure you've got this wall. It's the same sort of thing. Right click, go to the options, make sure this wall closure is checked. These options do not live within the if you go as part of the settings. So if I just edit, edit this style, this window style, nowhere in the window style dialog boxes will you find anything about wall closure. Maybe you should, as a matter of consistency of user interface design, but that's not how it works. You gotta, from the resource manager or from an instance in the model, you need to right click on it, edit the options, and here I can't do that from here. I've got to do it from the resource manager because it's a symbol. And then once you do all that, then there will be a wall closure dialog box in the object info palette where you can either tell it to use the wall settings, in which case it'll just default to the settings that I have defined for this particular style, which is just a 4-inch splay top, left, and right, and just a flat sill. Or I can deselect that and then use whatever profile that I want.
Francois, thanks so much for doing that.
Yeah.
And really what you did, and I know you did it twice, but you, the second time, at least for me, underscored that there's right clicking and that everything isn't in the settings and that some things are need to be found in the resource browser. So knowing all that, I think
Absolutely, absolutely
thanks.
right. Yep. I think you've summarized it perfectly. There we go. And now if I click on that and pivot around to the inside, you can see, again, I've got this, I think you can see it pretty clearly. I've got this radiused corner at the left and the right interior jamb. Oops, sorry about that floor, bumping you in the head. Nothing at the top and the bottom.
Also, on the outside where you have the slope sill on the upper portion of that, does it just know because it's a horizontal line at the bottom of the geometry that that's the sill of that window? On the slider?
Over here, up here?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's how it works, Don. That
Okay.
if it's
Okay.
horizontal and it's, you know, I'm just impressed at how that it manages this little corner here.
Yeah.
It doesn't
yeah,
just
exactly.
and just doesn't just give up. Like, that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Francois,
Yeah.
if you were to take this file that you've created and export it back, you know, a couple of years, what would happen?
Oh, Guy, that's a great question. In the spirit of breaking things, let's find out. Let's go ahead and save. And I'll just
Oh, Francois, I love it.
let's give me a second here. Export to 2021 to my desktop. Okay, I gotta launch Vectorworks 2021. Yeah. Here. Let me screen share here and show you the. So there's 2022. And here's 2021. So it, you know, it still lets me keep the window and all that. It doesn't just reject them out of hand, but it's just not accommodate wall closure. So, or those kinds of splayed returns or whatever. So yeah.
Even that's pretty impressive.
You've got another reason to give Matthew a call and update to 2022 if you haven't.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't know of any application that has the ability to apply advanced features in the newest version retroactively to the the results to the old version, right?
Yeah, I would be shocked if
Yeah.
they were able to do that, because I mean, the only thing it could do would be to create a big opening and generate geometry for the splays as something that's part of the symbol.
Yeah.
Right? It would that is a really, really tall order
Any application.
yeah, that would not make sense.
Francois, I like your rock. Did you create that, or is that one of Vectorworks built-ins?
I think that's stone. I like that too. It gets a lot of use around the office. I think that stone is from Arrowway.
Okay, okay.
And Arrowway, there's a lot of textures from Arrowway that are built into the Vectorworks libraries. If I may be so bold as to complain, that's great, but the problem that I have is that the thumbnails in the resource manager are illegible. Like it's just this kind of blob, and you can't really preview it very nicely. So you end up having to import a whole bunch of textures until you find the one that you like, which is kind of time consuming. However, on the Arrowway website, you can buy beautiful, there may be better commercial textures out there, but I don't know of any. I think they're really beautiful, and they have a very large library of stone, concrete, not so much tile, wood, either like wood flooring or just wood texture, grain. And you can buy some textures, but they also allow you to download for free, I think pretty much all of their textures at a quote low resolution, which I think ends up being like 256 pixels by 256, something like that, which is probably what this is. So even their low res like previews that they allow you to download for free, unless you're doing photorealistic rendering, they're perfectly great for design work and sort of communicating. So when I want a new texture that I don't already have baked into a template, I usually just trot over to their website, find the previews of something that I like, and it's just, it may end up being a texture that I already have, but it's just easier to find on their website than in the resource manager. There's my soapbox.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we'll say goodbye to this 2021 file. There's probably some more nuances to wall closure, like, you know, exactly how things wrap and so forth, that I could go into if if you were patient and or I was more knowledgeable. But I think I've given you enough of a sense of what's going on here in 2022. And again, you know, this isn't something that necessary. I mean, it just depends on, you know, what your design sensibilities are and the types of projects that you do. For some people, this is something they would use on every single project, on almost every opening. For other practices, maybe every once in a while. But it's a very cool feature, and you know, there's several cases where I could see that I might end up using it. Maybe not with doors and windows, maybe with something else to create sort of sculptural openings within a wall. You know, a drywall mass or whatever. But since I anticipated that we might have a little bit of extra time today, I thought that maybe we should talk about Stair Reshape, which is another 2022 feature. So I don't want to leave wall closure if there's any burning questions that people have, but I was going to sort of shift gears here in a minute if there weren't any other questions about wall closure. Okie dokie, great. All right, so let me just, hold on. Let me just check to make sure somebody didn't throw something up in chat. Nope, okay, great, nothing in chat, great. So all right, let's go back to, I've got to save you here. All right. So I'm just gonna delete the stair. I've got a ground floor plan. I have I have a ground floor plan, I have a second floor plan. Big shell. So from the building shell, I'm going to choose the stair tool. There it is, same stair tool. And immediately you can see that across the top here, I've got a whole mess of new options. So something that shouldn't come as any surprise, I've got a pull down menu where I can choose from some pre-generated, some Vectorworks content of some standard stair profiles. I'm pretty sure that's nothing new. Right. So I could do that. And if I just click on this first mode here, then that's going to be just the typical stair insertion mode that you are used to. So if I want, say, a L-shaped stair, let's pick a US fixed width, this one here, right? And now I'll just click and there it is. And then I'll rotate it and you know, move it into position and so on and so forth if I wanted it to go around the corner here. So in 2022, I now have a couple of other options. I can draw stairs in plan or in 3D using this kind of polygon mode. So that might look something like this. And it'll just fill out the stair to whatever geometry I sketch, or I could just do it as a rectangle by 2 points, say something like this. When I do it by rectangle by 2 points, you can see that it's giving me these little arrows. So I get to choose, is it starting in the upper right and making a right-hand turn to the lower left, or some other configuration. And so I'll click again and it'll or I can do a rectangle by 3 points from here, say to here, just like drawing a rectangle by 3 points. It's kind of cool. So it's a nice new way to draw stairs other than just sort of inserting them, hopefully a little bit more natural. When I'm drawing a stair, right? What's that? There you go. All right, I'll go ahead and draw one. Went the wrong way. All right, and now that it's there, it's pretty much what you'd expect, just not that different from earlier versions of the stair tool. So instead of by value, let me unlock the riser height and the links here, and unlock this. And so instead of by value, I'll do by layer. So the bottom boundary will be the finished floor because I've got a stories in this file. No top offset, and it'll go to the finished floor of the story above, which is 10'6", so it'll automatically calculate that. I'll give it, say, a 10.5-inch stair tread depth, kind of a bit of a steeper stair. And I'll set the riser height to residential maximum 7 3/4. That doesn't give me an even number of risers, so it automatically recalculates it as 7.412 inches, about 7 3/8. Yep, there's something I needed to unlock.
one or the other.
There we go. Number of risers. There we go. So recalculates that 17 risers. And I can make the offset 6 inches to meet code. Yep. And I can set the stair width to be, say, 40 inches in both directions. We'll just calculate that, right? Just standard stair stuff. This should not be unfamiliar if you've played with the stair tool. So there it is. So here I may need to go ahead and reposition that. So it's in the corner. Another nice thing in 2022 is if I invoke the Reshape tool, you see that I get these Reshape handles on the stair. Now I can't just grab a point and stretch it out and kind of create a splayed stair run. Won't let me do that. But I can say have a wider run at the bottom than the top, even much wider.
It won't let you do that.
Or I can stretch it this way. So it doesn't give me sort of infinite amount of room to play, but it will give me some room to play. And
So first of
so,
all, when you laid out that stair, does it have to be a right angle turn? Or
no,
can it
no, could
whatever
be,
you want
yeah,
with it within?
yeah.
Okay.
I was drawing by a rectangle, so it is a right angle, but I could make a, zigzaggy stair if I wanted to.
Francois, when you're like when you were pulling out the lower flight there, will it add risers and take them away from the top flight?
No, so it's not purely graphical, right? So if we go to the settings, right? I've gone ahead and stipulated that I'm using the minimum and maximum, right? The residential US settings. And so, for example, if I try to compress it so that it just doesn't have enough room to generate enough risers, it just won't let me reshape it. Likewise, if I've locked certain things, like I've specified that the tread has to be 10.5 inches, I won't let it go to 10. I won't let it go to 12. Then it'll try to find some other parameter that it can play with, like maybe this offset here at the corner if I'm stretching it, right? But there's some things it just won't let me do because it violates the rule of the stair. So drawing it graphically like this, it gets me somewhere, but it's not going to be a purely graphical exercise. I am going to have to go back and forth, to my settings and sort of play with this. Maybe, maybe this is a 6 inch and that's a 6 inch. And now you see it's sort of reshaping the stair from what I drew. Maybe I make the tread, it did let me take the tread depth down to 10.5 because I didn't, or 10 because I didn't lock this. But that's the minimum depth that I'm allowed with the IRC. And so, that's as far as it's going to let me go.
All right, thanks.
Sure. So yeah, and then of course, like all things stair, I got to think about for my settings, 2D graphics. I want to go ahead and show that on floor 2, pointing down, playing 1. What's up? Great. Then I can go to my save view and I can create a polygon here.
What are you doing?
Add the surfaces and clip them from the slab. Send that to back. So that I've got a nice hole in my floor and all that good stuff, and probably eliminate that guardrail along the wall side and so on. So, and then you can also, if you just double click on the stair, if you double click on the stair, then thinks it's got two objects here. So if I click on this stair and activate the reshape tool, you see that I've got these control points in plan. So I can make that stair narrower in 3D. And it'll regenerate. You can make it over here if it'll let me, which it won't because I'm creating a, sort of messing up a constraint. I could stretch it out and obstruct that door. I'm sure my client will love that. So forth. So it's not just reshaping in 2D. I can also apply these kind of reshape operations. If I'm quickly sketching out a stair, then I've got that option to sort of play with it in a bit more sculptural fashion than just going back and forth to the settings.
Francois,
Yes.
when you manually cut the opening in the second floor there.
Yeah.
Is there a way, could you set parameters in the stair tool to automatically cut that opening?
No.
Interesting.
Unless there's a feature I'm not aware of, which, that does happen a lot. So I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so.
It'd be a good way to control the, you don't hit your head height.
Yeah.
Have that as a minimum, it would automatically change the length of the opening so that doesn't happen.
There is a line that appears that you can to know when you have to have headroom.
Right there.
That's right.
Under 2D graphics.
Ah, that's good enough. Okay.
So, and that's a good guess, because it doesn't know, the stair doesn't know how thick the slab is overhead.
Oh.
So, so it's an approximation. It's still incumbent upon you to check your head heights. What other than irregular risers, that's something that can trip you up on a stair.
I guess until we still don't have being able to insert things into a slab, it ain't gonna happen. That's essentially what it takes.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could insert an L-shaped opening in a slab and splay the floor so that if you did have a head knocker, you could just chamfer that corner. That'd be cool.
And then call it closure.
And call it closure.
Or one for Don.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all I have on my plate for today. Unless there's any questions you'd like for me to go over or answer, or something that I missed.
Were there any other particularly major features? I haven't looked at it in 2022 that stand out to you.
Oh, yes, yes. But I'm keeping my powder dry for next month, Bill, where
Oh,
you will
sorry.
have to tune back in
Okay.
on a Thursday, hopefully this time. I won't mess up the schedule. Yeah, there's a very cool new feature that I am looking forward to showing you guys. I mean, I don't need to be coy about it. Texture mapping is way cool. So
I
that might be
wondered,
something that we discussed.
oh, sorry, Francois.
No, that's it.
I wondered if anybody else is an oddball like me and on a PC and how 2022 is doing for them.
I don't know, Gail, but Apple announced the new M1 Pro and the M1 Max laptops yesterday or the day before. So
Oh,
time for you to come home.
I think it may be. Okay, I get it.
Got $4,500 scale? Just burn a hole in your pocket?
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll think that again.
Well, that's for the high end one. You don't have to go all that far. Yeah, they are pricey.
Yeah.
But
Oh
they
well,
trade.
it's almost time for a new setup anyway.
As far as I know, Jeff and Matt and others can probably comment more intelligently than I can on this. As far as I know, like I rarely or never hear through the chatter of the various discussion boards of like, oh boy, the PC performance is really lagging behind Mac or vice versa. Like in terms of performance, there seems to be, parity between the two platforms as far as Vectorworks. In fact, I had to call tech support the other day, and their second question was, are you on a Mac or a PC? And they set them up with both machines right there, and they just kind of jump back and forth.
Gail, how old is your PC?
I think it's about 4 years old, maybe.
How much RAM you got on it?
Ooh, sorry, I don't keep that in my head. It was, let's see, maybe it's not 4 years. Yeah. No, but I upgraded.
Mm-hmm.
I know I worked with tech support and did some upgrading.
Okay.
But so is there anything you can tell me, Jeff, that I should look for?
A good graphics card, at least 4 GB of VRAM. Depends on how old your processor is. I've got the kids running, I've got a station that I built for gaming, and it's 8 gig of VRAM. I've got 32 gig of RAM on it, and it's a AMD Ryzen 5 3600. So I've got more than enough horsepower to run any of that stuff. But I would say to me, that was like the minimum to run and being able to render and 3D model and all of that stuff with like no hiccups.
Okay, I'll double check. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just running a 3.5-year-old MacBook Pro, so I'm well overdue for an upgrade. I mean, that's what you're looking at right now, and it doesn't have nearly the specs of what Jeff just said.
Mm-hmm.
The newer the hardware, it certainly makes a huge difference because of all the manpower and investment that Vectorworks has been putting into rewriting code and utilizing things like multi-threading and this that they're taking very seriously now. So we're definitely seeing the most improvement just with newer hardware. Actually, we've never been able to like give a firm thumbs up on something like the Mac Air, the MacBook Air, for instance. Like we've never put it on any publication that it was like
acceptable.
Yeah, a suitable answer. And we have people right now with the new M1 chip just utilizing the Apple Silicon natively with 2022 that are like flying through the software. It's pretty unbelievable. So you're not going to have a lot of things like ports or this or that, but it does say a lot for how far the rewriting of the software is gone, and obviously the utilization of all the newfangled hardware. So that's really the best I can give.
I will also say, Gail, that my understanding is that at least in the very early builds, this may already be obsolete with the public release of 2022. That all that modeling for like the chamfering and so forth of the of wall returns with the new wall closure feature might be pretty intense if you use it very extensively on a large model with a lot of openings on an old machine.
Okay, it sounds like it's a good excuse for a new Mac.
Could be. And yeah, Matt's right on both counts. Like Vectorworks has never recommended a MacBook Air, and for a while I was using a MacBook Air, and just having a solid state drive made a pretty big difference. Eventually, I had to get a better machine, but for a year or two there, it was okay for what I needed.
Yeah, and one thing I'll do right now is I'll post. Let me see if I can find it. We do a great job of kind of giving like the best 3 sort of like here's a machine that you could get away with, like a budget machine, and here's like a middle of the road kind of recommended machine. And then, do you want a hot rod? Here you go. And they kind of give you all 3 for both the PC side and the Mac side. So I'll post that. I just found it right here.
Cool.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so if you check your
System
chat, yeah,
Mhm.
Matt's just posted that.
Thanks,
All right.
Matt. Got it.
Well, thank you, everyone. I will, when the recording's ready, I will post this on the YouTube channel, and look forward to seeing you in a few weeks at our next meeting.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Francois.
Awesome.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks
Bye.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.